Hey there, and welcome to the channel. Today, we're diving into the storyline of an American sci-fi horror movie titled The Hills Have Eyes Part 2, which hit the screens in 2007. Heads up, this video contains major plot details. So, sit tight and let's get started. The story begins in a shadowy room where a woman is seen in extreme distress as she goes through a painful labor. Eventually, a newborn arrives. The baby appears physically different from what one might expect. After a brief inspection, the man assisting suddenly turns on the woman and the scene takes a dark turn. Now, let's rewind 2 years. A family driving through a remote desert area accidentally comes across a restricted zone known as Sector 16. What started as a road trip quickly turns into a nightmare. By the following day, half of them had vanished or suffered tragic outcomes. In the weeks that followed, authorities sent in a search crew to investigate the situation. Fast forward to the present. A group of soldiers is sent to the same zone on a secret assignment. Their mission? To install a surveillance system, but the exact reasons are under wraps. To check the setup, a technician named Han places test dummies inside an abandoned mine, which might have been used as a hidden operations base. Meanwhile, Dr. Wilson supervises the mission from a control room equipped with thermal imaging. Suddenly, Dr. Wilson notices odd readings on the monitor. Before he can figure out what's wrong, the entire system unexpectedly shuts down. Han heads over to check the power box and notices something unusual. The wires are completely burnt. He figures it might be the work of desert rodents chewing through the cables. Elsewhere, Dr. Foster is busy setting up his gear on top of a hill. He tries to radio Dr. Wilson, but there's no reply. Then he attempts to reach Han, unaware that Han has already been taken down inside the mine. Foster suddenly freezes as he sees something shocking, a strange-looking man munching on a snake. Trying to remain calm, Foster speaks to the figure, but the man seems more intrigued by the sound of a zipper on Foster's bag. Out of nowhere, the man growls a strange word. Foster listens closely and realizes it sounds like, "run away." But before he can react, someone sneaks up from behind and strikes him. Hearing the commotion, Colonel Redding heads off to find Foster, calling out his name. But before he gets far, a figure ambushes him from behind using a metal rod, sending him rolling down the slope. Meanwhile, a team of young soldiers is in the middle of a chaotic training simulation that mimics a battlefield. One of them, nicknamed Spitter, loses his helmet and rushes back to retrieve it, even though his squad shouts for him to stay put. As he steps back, an explosive device nearby launches him through the air, all part of the simulation. Then, a taunting voice from the opposing side mocks them and even insults their group, triggering one soldier named Crank to leap out from cover and give chase. His fellow teammates hesitate, but ultimately follow him. They toss some training grenades through a door, and the resulting blast sends them sprawling. A toy falls next to them, followed by the entrance of a crying woman claiming it's her baby. Napoleon steps forward to apologize, but she opens her jacket to reveal she's loaded with prop explosives. Just before the simulated explosion, she says, "Kaboom!" reminding them all that it's just part of a tactical exercise and not an actual battle. Afterward, Sergeant Jeffrey reprimands the entire squad for acting recklessly during the exercise. He then informs them of their next mission. They're heading to Sector 16 to deliver essential supplies to a team of scientists stationed there. Since it's a classified location, they're strictly told not to speak with anyone outside or wander away from the assigned path. Once they arrive near Sector 16, a few team members recall hearing that this area was once used for nuclear testing, raising concerns about radiation. However, Sergeant Jeffrey assures them that their superiors confirmed it's completely safe. During the bumpy ride, the cadets joke around, but things quickly escalate into a heated argument. Crank gets so worked up, he nearly throws someone off the truck, forcing others to intervene and calm him down. Upon reaching the research outpost, the place seems strangely deserted. They try to use the radio but receive no response. Unbeknownst to them, someone is quietly watching from behind the surrounding rocks. Curious, Crank opens the entrance to a nearby mine, but a swarm of bats rushes out, startling everyone. Inside, they discover a satellite phone, but it's been completely damaged. Just then, the truck's radio picks up a faint distress call. A voice pleads for help, saying he's somewhere up the hill. Before he can finish, the signal cuts out. Looking toward the hill, they spot a flash of light, a signal mirror. Jeffrey decides they'll investigate and orders a search mission. Napoleon disagrees, saying they should check in with their base first. In response, Jeffrey assigns him an embarrassing task, guarding the camp toilet while standing on one leg. Before leaving, Jeffrey notices Amber flirting with a teammate and decides she'll stay behind too. He instructs her to keep trying the radio. While she follows orders, she hears a faint "hello" on the other end, but nothing else. Meanwhile, as the team climbs the hill, Mickey accidentally steps onto a hidden shaft and falls inside. The others rush to help him and manage to pull him out in time. They toss a rock inside and realize the hole is either extremely deep or very old. Mickey's ankle is badly hurt, so Sergeant Jeffrey tells him to return to camp. Back at the base, Napoleon goes into the bathroom, but suddenly hears an odd noise. Out of nowhere, a hand emerges from the toilet and grabs his leg. Screaming in shock, he bolts outside. Amber is skeptical and goes in to check, but to her horror, an entire arm reaches up through the waist. Both cadets panic as a man slowly crawls out, covered in dirt and barely able to speak. It's Dr. Wilson, trembling and injured, with several cuts across his body. He struggles to speak, but manages to whisper, "They're here," before collapsing. Napoleon realizes someone intentionally hurt him to let the infection take over gradually. After washing up, Amber and Napoleon try contacting Jeffrey, but the radio still doesn't work. That's when they spot dark smoke rising in the distance. Their truck is on fire. Panicked, Amber discovers her weapon is missing and decides to head out and find the team. Napoleon, shaken, chooses to stay behind. As Amber takes just a few steps away from the camp, she hears a sudden noise. Without warning, a creature leaps onto her from behind. She fights back, using all her strength, but the mutant is much stronger and slams her to the ground. Just as he raises a sharp object, Amber manages to hit him with a rock. Before he can strike again, a shot rings out. Mickey, hiding nearby, has fired just in time. The attacker flees by jumping into one of the mine shafts, but before Mickey can react, another hand bursts from a different hole and grabs his ankle, yanking him off his feet. Amber holds tightly onto Mickey's arms, trying her best to pull him back up, but the force from below is too strong. She reaches for her weapon but can't take the shot, as Mickey's body is blocking the entire opening. Just then, Napoleon arrives and joins her in trying to pull Mickey to safety. But it's too late. The rocks shift suddenly, and Mickey's leg bends unnaturally. His body gets squeezed and slowly pulled into the darkness, disappearing into the hole beneath them. Elsewhere, Delmer is chosen to scale a tall rock formation to get a better view of the area. It's a difficult climb, and he nearly slips, but manages to reach the top. Meanwhile, Missy pauses to check a message from her son on her phone. She hears a noise and jumps when someone touches her shoulder, but it's just one of her teammates, reminding her they're moving out. As they walk further, they notice a single shoe resting oddly on top of a rock. Nearby, they make a chilling discovery: Foster's lifeless body with his ID wedged into a head wound. Alarmed, Spitter attempts to contact the base camp, but gets no response. After several tries, a familiar voice finally comes through. It's Reading, but he says just one brief sentence before the connection cuts out. Missy points out that the voice doesn't match the one they heard earlier, raising suspicions. They continue onward, unsettled by strange echoes coming from the surrounding rocks. Suddenly, a figure jumps out and swings at Spitter, hitting only his backpack. Startled, Spitter reacts by firing several rounds, causing the attacker to flee up the hill and hurl a rock back down at him. In a panic, Spitter fires wildly and accidentally hits Sergeant Jeffrey, who is coming from another direction. The attacker escapes, and the team rushes to help, but Jeffrey doesn't make it. When Amber and Napoleon arrive, they share the heartbreaking news about Mickey. The squad wraps Jeffrey's body in a blanket, preparing to carry him back down the mountain. As they descend, Delmer spots someone moving above them among the rocks. He chooses not to alert the group, hoping to avoid another confrontation. When it's time to lower the wrapped body down using a rope, Spitter goes first. Everything seems fine until the rope suddenly snaps. Spitter falls hard and doesn't survive the impact. Crank immediately lashes out, blaming Napoleon for tying a bad knot, but Delmer examines the end of the rope and notices something far worse. It wasn't an accident. The rope had been cut. They soon realize all their backup ropes are missing. With no easy way down, the group begins searching for an alternate path to descend the rocky terrain. Unfortunately, every route they find leads to a dead end. Suddenly, they hear a faint sound in the distance and decide to follow it. Eventually, they come across Colonel Reading, barely conscious and struggling to stay upright. They try to help, tending to his injuries, but he unexpectedly bursts into laughter and acts unpredictably. Before they can make sense of the situation, a distant scream echoes through the valley. The team immediately prepares for trouble. When they turn back, they're shocked to see Redding now standing upright and holding a weapon. He begins explaining that there are people living deep within the abandoned mines, people who were affected by past experiments involving radioactive materials. Over time, their bodies changed, and they adapted to the harsh environment underground. According to Reading, these mutated survivors show aggression toward outsiders, especially men, but spare women for their own survival plans. The squad demands to know how to escape the area, but before Redding can give them a proper answer, he takes drastic action, removing himself from the equation. A short while later, Missy sits beside Amber and shows her a video of her son on her phone. Suddenly, a strange figure appears behind them. Missy catches a glimpse and shouts, "No! It's a setup!" before the others quickly react. They open fire and manage to bring the attacker down. After the chaos settles, Missy walks behind a rock to relieve herself, unaware that another figure is nearby. This one blends almost perfectly with the surrounding stone due to his rugged, rock-like skin. As she lowers her guard, he lunges from behind and grabs her. Missy's scream alerts the team. They rush down the narrow trail and catch a glimpse of the creature carrying her deeper into the mine tunnels. As the group enters the mine, one of the cadets, nicknamed Two Stump, starts having second thoughts. He tells the others that this isn't a good idea and decides to leave the cave, promising to return with backup. The rest of the team continues deeper into the tunnels, unaware that hidden eyes are watching their every move from the shadows. They eventually hit a dead end and find Missy's phone lying on the ground. Using their flashlights, they notice a passageway behind a barrier of metal sheets. Delmer slides down and kicks aside the rocks, blocking the way, revealing a lower tunnel. Once he confirms it's safe, the rest of the team follows him down. As they continue forward, Amber suddenly panics when a spider crawls up her arm, but she brushes it off and pushes through bravely. Meanwhile, Two Stump is making his way down the hillside when he hears strange sounds nearby. Small rocks begin to tumble around him, adding to the eerie atmosphere. On high alert, he decides to descend the rocky slope without using a rope, carefully moving step by step. Halfway down, he spots a narrow tunnel in the cliff wall and calls out to his team, hoping someone hears him, but there's no response. As he turns to leave, an unusual figure appears inside the tunnel. The figure slashes at him, striking his hand and causing him to lose grip. Unable to hold on, Two Stump slips and falls from the ledge. Inside the mine, the group continues forward, following a subtle breeze that leads them to a narrow opening in the wall. Peeking through, they're shocked to spot the remains of their fallen teammates below, confirming that this must be the place where the rope was sabotaged earlier. Up ahead, they encounter a tunnel partially submerged in water, making it impossible to see the ground beneath. Amber quietly tucks a single round into her pocket, a last resort, just in case the situation takes a turn for the worse. As they move through the water, Amber unexpectedly steps into a hidden drop. Napoleon quickly tries to catch her, but loses his balance and tumbles down as well. The water rushes through the pit, and the rest of the group, Crank and Delmer, peer down to check on their friends. Luckily, they're both alive, though shaken. With no safe way to reunite just yet, the group splits into two, each team continuing on separate paths. Meanwhile, the hidden figure carrying Missy is in the lower tunnels, but quickly moves out of sight before anyone can spot him. Delmer and Crank soon come across another obstacle, a wide gap in their path. Crank decides to take the risk and leap across. It's a difficult jump, but he barely manages to grab hold of the opposite side and pull himself up. As Crank begins to lose his grip, Delmer takes a leap of faith and lands safely on the other side. He quickly reaches out and helps Crank up. Once both are secure, they notice a support beam nearby and use it to climb down to the next level. They enter a dimly lit room filled with old, dust-covered items. In the corner, the strange figure that had taken Missy finally drops her. He mumbles something unsettling, calling her Mama Pretty. Missy, refusing to stay quiet, spits in his face. Enraged, the mutant responds with a cruel insult and forcefully pushes her onto an old bed frame. Missy tries to resist, but he overpowers her. In a disturbing moment, he leans in close and licks the blood from a scratch, calling it sweet. When he tries to invade her personal space further, Missy fights back, biting his tongue and striking him where it hurts. She takes the chance to escape, running toward the exit. But just as she reaches the doorway, a much larger figure blocks her path and knocks her to the ground. The first one, clearly terrified, refers to this larger being as Papa and backs away. To his surprise, the larger figure reacts with anger and hits him, causing the smaller one to flee in fear. Turning back to Missy, the larger figure mutters disturbing intentions, hinting at a desire to force a family. She looks for any way out, hoping someone will reach her in time. Hearing Missy's screams echo through the tunnels, Delmer and Crank call out her name and search frantically for the right way through. In the meantime, the larger figure growls and slams a heavy door shut behind him before turning back toward Missy with harmful intent. Elsewhere in the mine, Napoleon and Amber come across Two Stump's headband. Just then, a severed hand drops near them, causing panic. A figure suddenly emerges from the shadows. Napoleon quickly fires his weapon, but none of the shots land, and he's soon out of ammunition. The creature charges at them. Thinking fast, Amber grabs its head and manages to injure one of its eyes. In retaliation, it grabs her by the throat, but Napoleon grabs a large rock and strikes the attacker repeatedly until it finally collapses. At that exact moment, another strange being, this one completely blind, appears further down the tunnel. Sensing trouble, Amber and Napoleon slowly step backward, trying to remain silent, but the creature follows their scent. Suddenly, the ground gives way, and the two fall through a hidden hatch. To their surprise, a more human-like figure, another mutant, closes the hatch behind them and assures them they're safe for now. Soon, Delmer and Crank reach the same tunnel above. Their voices unintentionally alert the blind creature, which begins firing wildly. Delmer is hit, but Crank quickly returns fire and manages to stop the threat. However, both are now out of ammunition. Napoleon opens the hatch and pulls his teammates inside to safety. The friendly figure gestures for them to follow. After moving through a hidden passage, they arrive at a chamber filled with old belongings and the remains of past victims. A chilling reminder of how many never made it out. Inside the room, the group is horrified to find body parts hanging from hooks, scattered across tables, and even stored inside old containers and machines. Amber lets out a terrified scream when she recognizes Mickey among the remains. Suddenly, Delmer collapses from exhaustion and injury, passing out in his teammates' arms. The group presses on, carefully carrying Delmer with them as they continue. Their guide, the friendly mutant, leads them toward what looks like an exit, but when they reach the doorway, it won't budge. It's jammed shut, blocking their escape. Amber insists on going back to find Missy, but Crank argues that she may already be gone. Just then, he spots explosives stored behind an old wooden barrier and starts pulling away the planks. The guide warns them not to touch anything, and, clearly frightened, runs off into the tunnels. Despite the risk, Amber decides to go back for Missy, and Napoleon follows her, unwilling to let her go alone. Meanwhile, Crank enters the storage room and lifts a box containing the explosives. As he carries it out, he unknowingly tugs on a tripwire hidden beneath the debris. The wire triggers a blast that causes the entire room to collapse. Amber and Napoleon, returning to check on Crank, are caught in the aftermath. Dust and rubble fill the air. As they reach the site of the explosion, they realize Crank didn't survive. Meanwhile, deep in the mine, the larger creature has Missy tied down, her screams echoing through the dark tunnels. Hearing the sound, Napoleon and Amber follow a newly opened passage created by the recent explosion. It leads them to what appears to be a hidden military operations room. As Napoleon approaches the table inside, one of the figures, who had been disguised as a dummy, suddenly springs to life and attacks. After a struggle, the figure jumps at Amber, but Napoleon quickly reacts and uses his knife to strike back. Amber then fights him off using the handle of her weapon until the attacker is no longer a threat. Pushing forward, The two spot the large mutant ahead through a gap in the wooden wall. He's still holding Missy. Thinking quickly, Amber places Missy's phone in a side room and plays a video to create a distraction. The mutant hears it and steps away to investigate. The soldiers rush in and untie Missy, but before they can get out, the creature smashes through the wooden boards and launches himself at them. He tackles Napoleon and grabs Missy, slamming her to the ground repeatedly. In the chaos, Amber remembers the spare bullet she kept and uses it, aiming at the creature's head. The impact stuns him, damaging part of his skull, but it's not enough to stop him. He throws Napoleon aside again and turns to Amber, grabbing her by the neck. Struggling to break free, Napoleon picks up a metal rod and strikes the mutant, holding him back just long enough. Amber seizes the chance and pushes her fingers into the wounded area on the creature's head. Applying pressure, she manages to bring him down for good. After that, Missy, still furious, starts striking the creature's body again. Suddenly, it jolts back to life and grabs her ankle, causing her to fall to the ground. The creature tries to reach for a blade, but Napoleon spots an axe nearby and uses it just in time to stop him. He then helps Amber free Missy. Missy grabs a nearby hammer and delivers a few heavy blows to the mutant's lower body. Finally, Napoleon steps in and uses his weapon to finish the fight for good. With the threat now gone, the three survivors make their way out at last. Later, the disappearance of the unit remains a mystery. Their families are never given a clear answer, and the official records state they went missing without permission. The area known as Sector 16 remains off the books, though someone, somewhere, is still monitoring it on a hidden screen. And that wraps up the story based on The Hills Have Eyes Part 2. If you found this breakdown interesting, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to tap the like button and turn on the bell icon to stay updated with more story recaps like this one. Thanks for watching.